What is stimming? Causes of stimming? Stimming may have a calming effect, focusing attention away from an overwhelming or stressful experience. Stimming behaviors can provide comfort to autistic people. They can vary in intensity and type and can occur due to a variety of emotions. Autistic people of any age may stim occasionally or constantly in response to emotions such as excitement, happiness, boredom, stress, fear, and anxiety. They may also stim during times when they are feeling overwhelmed. There are certain things that I absolutely can't stand. One of those is when somebody just appears on my door unannounced. There was one incident in particular that made me so mad. I was so angry after that happened. I have an obnoxious coworker. She knows where I live and she just doesn't understand personal space. She gets into your personal space, coming very, very close and touching your things at work. But then she just turned up, rang my bell, like insanely. She just didn't stop ringing my bell. The problem was I went to bed very, very late. I couldn't fall asleep. So when that coworker rang the bell, I hadn't slept very much. So she actually really freaked me out by ringing that bell unannounced. I have that sometimes. It's a histamine issue. When estrogen peaks, I have really a hard time falling asleep. So that was one of those days, and she turns up at my doorstep at 10 in the morning. It was not too early normally, but because I went to bed so late, this is not much sleep. And it freaked me out because I was still sleeping and she literally shook me out of bed, and I was afraid. I thought, oh, something had happened. House on fire or I don't know what, but so in my pajamas I just ran downstairs to open the door, and there she stood, and I was so mad. So I destroyed the doorbell. I was so mad. And I told myself, this never, ever happens to me again. Because maybe for a neurotypical this wouldn't have been an issue, but for an autistic it was unexpected and jarring and shattering and extremely stressful because I couldn't fall asleep after that. I was so out of it. I actually developed a migraine from that incident. That's how my body reacts to overstimulation and stress. and lack of sleep. Such inconsiderate actions from neurotypicals can really be an issue for autistics. So please just announce when you want to bring something to my place, or just fucking throw it in my letterbox. I really actually don't want to see anybody when I have a day off. People have to knock, and it's very soft, because that doorbell, it was so loud. It hurt my ears. It really freaked me out every time somebody rang at the door. I don't know why I kept it for so long. But now I don't have a doorbell anymore, because I absolutely hate it when people just ring and I wasn't expecting them. So that is that. Finished. No more. So there are different types of stimming. Auditory stimming uses the person's sense of hearing and sound. It may include behaviors such as vocal sounds such as humming, grunting, or high-pitched shrieking. Well, I never do that. Tapping on objects or ears, covering and uncovering ears, and finger snapping. Repetitive speech such as repeating song lyrics, book sentences, or movie lines. So this is a form of stimming I never actually use, although I start cussing when I'm stressed. I do that one. So when I start cussing, it's a sign that I'm stressed, and people just have to cover their ears. For me, it's a relief cussing for some reason. And I have heard of other autistics also doing this, but not everybody, of course, luckily. But yeah, so that's another form of stress relief. So there is the tactile stimming, which I introduce in this video. Tactile stimming uses the person's sense of touch. It may include behaviors such as skin rubbing or scratching with the hands or objects. Every day, using my animal fat skin balm is also a form of stimming. It has a very nice scent and it really melts on your skin, and that's a very comforting sensation. Visual stimming uses a person's sense of sight. It may include repetitive behaviors such as staring or gazing at objects. Well, I think I do the visual stimming with colors. I love the color blue, and when I look at it, it's very calming. So this is my most favorite blue. It's just wonderful to look at it. That's why I wear blue all the time. I mean, really, all the time. I have only blue clothes, trousers, shirts, t-shirts, jackets. It's all blue. I did a video on that a while back. Then there is the vestibular stimming. Uses a person's sense of movement and balance. It may include repetitive behaviors such as rocking, front to back or side to side, spinning, jumping, pacing. Olfactory or taste stimming. Olfactory and taste stimming uses a person's sense of smell and taste. They may include repetitive behaviors such as sniffing or smelling people or objects, licking, tasting objects by placing them in the mouth. Well, I used to do that with spinach. When I was a vegan, then just because I actually didn't really like the taste of spinach, but cooked spinach, it has such a soft, very unique touch to your palate. And that's why I ate spinach every day. And it was actually harming me. So don't do the same mistake. Spinach is not healthy, okay? It's one of the highest oxalate foods. And when I did that hair analysis, my cadmium toxicity was through the roof. It's not a healthy food, okay? Don't do stimming with that particular food. So I stopped this type of stimming, and now I do that with meat. I really love the taste of meat, and it's a healthy alternative to spinach. So then there is that form of stimming. Look at that wonderful texture. The way I make coffee is a little bit special. So I have licorice in it for the sweet taste. Then I add some duck fat, and then I add camel milk powder. And what else? Oh, that's it. And of course the coffee. So this makes it very, very creamy and not too bitter. So this is my everyday treat. But I'm trying to not drink too much of it. Luckily, I also like the taste of water very much, so water is actually my most favorite element. Well, I have some difficulty to get wet. I procrastinate before I jump into the shower. But once I'm in the shower, I could stay there forever. And then it's again difficult to get out because that's another change from being wet to freezing and not being in that soft element. And water has always fascinated me. As a kid, I loved swimming in the lake nearby. And Bruce Lee, who was my idol.
Your mind, be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. The water can flow or it can crash and you push it out, but all the time you are keeping the continuity going, bending, stretching, everything. You just keep it moving. It's like a belly dancer. It is. To them, you see, the idea is running water never grows stale.
So, you see, that's typical. I can go from drinking water, swimming in a lake, to Bruce Lee, because Bruce Lee to me is connected to be like water. Anyway, I digress.
So you gotta just keep on flowing. Ultimately, martial art means honestly expressing yourself, and honestly, not lying to oneself, and to express myself honestly. That, my friend, is very hard to do, and you have to train. You have to keep your reflexes so that when you want it, it's there. When you want to move, you're moving, and when you move, you are determined to move. Not picking 1 inch, not anything less than that. If I want to punch, I'm gonna do it, man, and I'm gonna do it. You see? So that is the type of thing you have to train yourself into it, to become one with the. You think?
If you really feel into this and apply it to life, it can really become a nice philosophy. Be flexible, not hard. For an autistic, this is sometimes a little bit difficult to apply because we love our routines and don't like surprises. But it's a nice cognitive exercise, just trying to apply this philosophy. It can help to not get too stressed out. Anyway, yeah, this unfortunately is true for those who do not fully understand how autistic people cope with their emotions through stimming and the overstimulation and self-regulating. This behavior can be upsetting, distracting, frightening, or dangerous. Sometimes this misunderstanding can lead to autistic people becoming socially isolated or restricted from doing what they want to. So autistics should be allowed to do the stimming because it's really calming on the nervous system. It's nothing bad. My own stimming tools I use. So for one, I sit on a sheepskin. This is sheepskin. And it's really comfortable and it's warm. And I can just touch and grab it. This is one way. Whenever I watch some video on YouTube or whatever, when I sit in this chair, I can do that. So that's for that purpose. I have the sheepskin on my office chair. And then I have such 4 pieces. And I just grab them and just touching it. It's so soothing and calming. And I have in every jacket or also in my pant pockets, I have such a tiny piece, and then I just, whenever I feel stressed, and that's very calming. And then I have this little friend here. It's an alpaca, and it's real alpaca wool. And this is so soft. It's so wonderful to touch it, so I just caress it like a little pet. And this is really nice. And then I have a baby, and this is silk alpaca wool, and it's even softer. It's really so wonderful to touch. So as you see, I have those sheep skins on my floor as well, and I'm walking on them barefoot. This is also really comforting. I love to do that. Just my feet touching this sheepskin. It's wonderful. It's a nice sensation. So I have those rings, and I often, when I'm in public and I'm talking to somebody, or even when I'm Skyping, then I constantly fidget around with those rings. I turn them. I have one here. I do this, or I move them up and down. This is another form of stimming that I use in public mostly. Just playing around with those rings. In the evening, I just use the salt lamps I have in my office. It is very soft light on the eyes. My eyes are sensitive to bright light. It really hurts. And salt lamps are a good way to avoid overstimulation through bright light. This is the one next to my computer, and especially in winter when I have cold hands, it's just awesome. You can take this lamp and then hold it in your hands and warm your hands. So it's kind of another tool for stimming when my hands are cold. Yeah, and then I always wear such a scarf, and just touching it here, that constant touch, I feel that comforting too. But then I have also another one, and then I just touch my face with it, or my lips. And I do that a lot. Like when I'm at home, I do that constantly. Whenever I watch a video or so, then I do that, and it's also really calming. And that's the only thing that I can tolerate, touching my face. Otherwise, nope. Because it's really soft. And that's okay. And it's loose. So, yes, those are my stimming tools I use. So, of course, there is also oversensitivity to certain things you touch. Tactile system. The tactile system includes nerves under the skin surface that send information to the brain. This information includes light touch, pain, temperature, and pressure. These play an important role in perceiving the environment as well as protective reactions for survival. This function in the tactile system can be seen in withdrawing when being touched, refusing to eat certain textured foods, and or to wear certain types of clothing, complaining about having one's hair or face washed, avoiding getting one's hand dirty, glue, sand, mud, finger paint, and using one's fingertips rather than whole hands to manipulate objects. As dysfunctional tactile system may lead to a misperception of touch and or pain, hyper or hyposensitive, and may lead to self-imposed isolation, general irritability, distractibility, and hyperactivity. Tactile defensiveness is a condition in which an individual is extremely sensitive to light touch. Yes, as a kid, for example, my mother used to put some body lotion on my back where I couldn't reach it, and she used such incredibly light touch. It would just freak me out. It was creepy. I couldn't stand it, and I begged her, please use more pressure. She wouldn't do it. She wouldn't do it. So I just taught myself to reach to the back as far as I could and apply that body lotion myself. And that was the end of it. And to this day, I prefer really a firm pressure or touch or grip, and light touch still creeps me out. It's not comfortable, except the scarf I use on my face. That's an exception. That's a very light touch, very soft, but it's directed by myself, so I feel very comfortable doing it. But somebody else touching me lightly, that creeps me out. Can't help it. Anyway, so where was I? So yeah, tactile defensiveness is a condition in which an individual is extremely sensitive to light touch. Improperly abnormal neural signals are sent to the cortex in the brain, which can interfere with other brain processes. This in turn causes the brain to be overly stimulated and may lead to excessive brain activity, which can neither be turned off nor organized. This type of overstimulation in the brain can make it difficult for an individual to organize one's behavior and concentrate, and may lead to a negative emotional response to touch sensations. So that's why many autistics prefer not to be touched at all, or just by people they know. It really depends on the person, I think.